Hey, soccer fans. Nick back with the Feed the Fire podcast, where we're talking all things Chicago Fire and Major League Soccer. And in this episode, we're also throwing in World Cup 2026. We're going to take a deeper dive into the various groups that have been pulled and take a look at the United States group and see which teams we think could give us trouble in the group stage and which teams we'd want to face out of the playoff, because there's still one more team to be decided for the U.S. I want to thank everyone who has tuned in and listened, who continues to write into the show. I really do appreciate it. Donnie, I owe you a response to your emails, so don't think I've forgotten about those. But I have been a little busy lately. It's taken me about a week to get back behind the mic here. Had a 3-day work conference this week, so part of the reason you can hear my voice is a little shot. I may be slipping into the stereotypical NPR soft rock radio voice here for a little bit. No, but we'll try to keep the energy up. We'll try to keep the excitement up, because there is actually a lot to talk about. And before we get into all the headlines, please make sure you are liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing, following along, doing everything you can to help out and to connect via YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. You can always email me, glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, or connect with me on social media at glasshousesoccer. But now let's get into it. The last couple of days, and I'm recording this Saturday the 13th. Last couple of days, we have seen some Chicago Fire transfer news. A couple things that we've speculated have now come into their official form. The biggest one being that the Chicago Fire have transferred homegrown midfielder Brian Gutierrez to Chivas de Guadalajara down in Liga MX. So here's the announcement from the club. As of yesterday, the Chicago Fire have announced the club has transferred Chicago native and homegrown midfielder Brian Gutierrez to Liga MX side Club Deportivo Guadalajara for a multi-million-dollar transfer fee. Additionally, in the event that Chivas permanently transfers Gutierrez, the Fire will retain a percentage of any future transfer fee. So there is a sell-on clause there. Be interested to hear eventually what that would be, if it is a kind of standard 10 to 15, maybe 20% sell-on fee, if they think he's going to be with Chivas for a while, or if they think he's going to play so well with Chivas, he's going to end up getting a big deal overseas, at which point hopefully they negotiated something at least in the 25 to 30% range of a sell-on fee. Also, the beginning of the article points out that Gutierrez does have some roots in Jalisco. His family's from around the area where the club is, and so maybe that also played a part into why Chivas thought they could lowball and get the initial offer in from the Liga MX clubs. Wait to see what then Monterrey and Tigres do before coming in with a legit offer on Gutierrez. Maybe they thought they could get sort of a hometown discount from him. But the article goes on to say the agreement with Chivas marks the third multi-million-dollar agreement for a transfer of a player 22 or younger in the past 3 years, including homegrown keeper Gaga Slonina to Chelsea in 2022 and Colombian forward John Duran to Aston Villa in 2023. Now we hear from Greg Berhalter, quote, Brian has demonstrated consistent growth and commitment to our club for 11 years. His year-over-year progression has culminated in a career-best season, and we're proud of his achievements. As he takes the next step in his journey, we have full confidence he'll continue to elevate his game and make an even greater impact in the years ahead, end quote. The Chicago native, whose family has roots in Chivas' home state of Jalisco, grew up in the West Lawn community of Chicago. He originally became the 16th player to sign a homegrown contract with the Fire in club history at just 16 years old, back on March 9, 2020. Since making his MLS debut on August 20th, 2020 against the Crew, Gutierrez has played 164 matches across all competitions for the Fire, with 21 goals and 25 assists. His 149 regular season appearances and 9,086 minutes as a homegrown player for the Fire are second only to Mauricio Pineda, who has 152 appearances and 10,659 minutes for the club. Now we get to hear from Guti himself, who says, it's been a privilege to play for my hometown club and represent all the kids who grew up playing in the parks around Chicago. I would like to thank all my teammates, coaches, and all the staff from the academy through the first team who helped a kid from Chicago live his dream. And I think that's how a lot of fans are going to remember him, as the kid from Chicago. I would also like to thank my family for their unconditional support over the years, as well as all the fans who have supported us in the good and tough times. I will keep representing Chicago everywhere I go, and Chicago will always be home. So great words from Gutierrez there. He's one of 5 homegrowns promoted from the academy at the start of the 2020 MLS season, again signing his first pro contract at age 16. At the international level, kind of hinting ahead to our World Cup talk here, he has earned 2 caps with the USMNT, both starts just this past January 2025, 73 minutes in a 3-1 win against Venezuela, and played the first half in a 3-0 victory over Costa Rica, though he has had consistent appearances previous to that on the U14 and U23 youth national team age levels. So hopefully this elevates Guti's game where he can get back into a regular conversation with Pochettino and the USMNT, though there is speculation that because he does hold a Mexican passport now, that was not just to give him a domestic roster spot in Liga MX with Chivas, but to also allow him to potentially make a switch to El Tri, to the Mexican national team, should he play there. And we also have seen that Mauricio Pineda's brother, Oscar, I believe, is playing with Mexico's U17 team there, so there might be a little connection there. But the conversation now becomes what is the Chicago Fire going to do to replace the homegrown face of the franchise? I mean, that could transition to Chris Brady pretty quickly, or they could maybe put in Orahel and Pineda to kind of give some of that local flavor, though those guys don't project to be regular starters in 2026. But also, what are they going to do with his offensive output? How are they going to replace those 15 goal contributions this year, as well as just the creativity that he started to show this season, as well as being able to drive some of the offense and picking that ball up, turning it upfield and going, taking some of those shots outside of the box, those 20-22 yarders to stretch the defense a little bit. That's where the Chicago Fire are going to have to find someone to replace Brian Gutierrez. I don't believe that comes from the academy or the second team at this point. And in fact, some of my fellow content creators in my MLS chat group were even asking, like, so what do the Fire do now? Where do they go from here without Gutierrez, who has held down that midfield spot for so long for them, and not just centrally as we've seen in the last season and a half, but the ability to float out wide and play that wing position. You know, when Klopas was running things a couple years ago, oh, John Donovan, I said it. I said Frank's name. I said Frank Klopas. Sorry, John, didn't mean to offend you. But yeah, this is the conversation. Now, I do think the Fire are going to go out and look for an attacking midfielder to sign either as a free agent or for a very affordable transfer fee. However, the focus is going to be on the defense. The Fire had one of the worst goals allowed in the league last season, and you've already seen how they have started to rebuild that defense. Again, bringing in Joel Waterman last season, re-signing Jack Elliott. They have brought in Boazi from South Africa. And it still cracks me up that there's so many like anti-MLS South African fans who are jumping on the Brian Gutierrez transfer news to talk about how terrible Major League Soccer is. I think it's hysterical. So we're just going to assume those are the vocal minority of fans, and that most South Africans know their football and their world football here. But I do think they're going to try and strengthen that backline and really kind of focus on some of the defense, and then they can continue to have that great attacking front three of Kuipers, Bamba, and Zinkernagel to kind of relieve the pressure from that position. If you bring in Saletros, who is now in Chicago and training, Anton Saletros from Sweden, and he can kind of hold things down with Davila and Orahel and possibly Pineda, depending on where they need him, until Andre Franco gets well. And you know, season 2, I don't think was of the Berhalter era was ever going to be the trophy push season. So if the Fire can fix the defense going forward for the next 2 to 4 seasons, if they can maintain the Bamba, Kuiper, Zinkernagel trio for another 2 seasons or so, or maybe bring some relief in there, and then in year 3 of the Berhalter era, get that midfield the way you want it to be. Get that attacking midfielder in there, whether that is Andre Franco or someone else, depending on how he responds coming back from an ACL tear, then you can really push for a trophy in the 2027 shortened season, and then maybe into the 2027-28 season, again with the new calendar that's coming out. Now, speaking of offense and how the Fire are going to kind of maintain it, there was a lot of speculation that they would bring back Giorgos Koutsias, who is on loan to FC Lugano, the sister club in Switzerland, to back up Hugo Kuipers, to maybe give him some rest as needed. The Fire did sign Shukuluk, who can play in a forward attacking role if needed. But we have now learned just this morning, Saturday morning, that Koutsias will not be an option for the Chicago Fire. As a matter of fact, the Fire have agreed to transfer forward Giorgos Koutsias to FC Lugano. So this loan move is now a permanent move. I think Koutsias always did want to progress his career in Europe. I think the time in Chicago was excellent for him to really develop some of his skill set. I remember talking about him as a forward who can kind of do a little of everything early in his career, a bit of a jack of all trades forward. We didn't know, is he a hold-up play kind of guy? Is he a poacher in the Wondolowski mold? Is he kind of a slashing runner behind in kind of the Nikolic mold that we've seen? Is he a guy who is going to be rocketing shots in from outside the box? How could he complement Hugo Kuipers if they ever brought him back to maybe try a two-striker system that we saw just a teensy bit this season? But that is not the case anymore. He has been transferred to FC Lugano. So let's hear what Berhalter says about Koutsias. We would like to thank Giorgos for his contributions to the Fire during his time with the club and are thrilled that he has found a place at FC Lugano. This transfer allows us to keep building on a good 2025 and to put together a stronger roster for 2026. So, on top of Koutsias maybe wanting to stay in Europe, on top of his style maybe not fitting what Berhalter wanted and how he would pair up with the team, it just seems like, yeah, this wasn't a guy that Berhalter scouted and signed, and so not a guy who was in his future plans. Just in case you forgot, Koutsias, who's 20, originally joined the Fire from PAOK in Greece, or PAOK in Greece, back in 2023. In his 2 seasons with the Fire, he made 57 appearances, including 18 starts, with 5 goals and 3 assists in regular season play. He added 2 goals in 5 Leagues Cup appearances in 2023 and 2024 as well. And as it turns out, oddly enough, or maybe not surprisingly, my Giorgos Koutsias goal highlight video that I have put out on YouTube is my most viewed YouTube video that I've ever made. So thanks to everyone who is still interested in the Greek striker. And like I said on Twitter, the man gave us a new meaning of what it is to be Greek Fire. And I'm definitely going to miss him. I really enjoyed seeing him. He was really cool to meet on the Greek night last season alongside, I'm going to say it again, John Donovan, alongside Frank Klopas. We were singing the Greek national anthem a little bit, took some photos. It was a good time, but you could see that his aspirations are so much higher. The way he was so aggressive in Major League Soccer, the way he has asserted himself as a key player for Lugano, the way he is a rising star in the Greek national team. He's been playing with the under-21s, I think maybe the under-23s. I can't remember if he's gotten any time for them, but the Greek under-21s making some noise over in Europe. So the sky's the limit at this point for Koutsias, especially as a 20-year-old. So there's a lot to watch for this guy. And I think it's great that he gets that permanent transfer to Lugano, where he can continue his rise in a European setting where he seemed to be the most comfortable. All right, those are the Chicago Fire, 2 big transfer announcements that I wanted to get into. We're going to continue our theme of talking cups here. Last episode we talked U.S. Open Cup a little bit. Now we also have new information on the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then we'll get into the World Cup group to wrap up the episode. But the 2026 CONCACAF Champions Cup bracket has been drawn. The 9 Major League Soccer teams that are participating will now learn their opponents. So, who are the teams? How do they qualify? And what are their matchups going to be? And by the way, CONCACAF Champions Cup will kick off on February 3rd. There is a best of 3. Is it best of 3? No, never mind. There's a home and away stage within the first 4 stages, and the final is a single leg match. So round 1, there's 4 weeks of round 1, beginning in February 3rd through 5th, and played each week through the end of February. Round of 16 is played March 10th through 12th, and then March 17th through 19th. Quarterfinals in April, semifinals end of April and May, and the final of CONCACAF Champions Cup, May 30th. So in the first round, we have 7 MLS teams entering, and I do believe this is in a bit of an alphabetical order. We'll see. So the first MLS team here is FC Cincinnati, who qualified via the 2025 Supporter Shield standings. Their opponent is O&M FC out of the Dominican Republic, who qualified by being the Caribbean Cup runner-up. Winner of that matchup ends up facing Tigres of Liga MX or Forge FC of Canada. Most likely Tigres out of that one. The next MLS club to qualify, the LA Galaxy, after finishing third place in the League's Cup, they will be matched up with Sporting San Miguelito of Panama, who qualified via the Central American Cup play-in, and the winner will face Mount Pleasant from Jamaica. So that seems to be a favorable matchup for the Galaxy, playing a lesser-known Panamanian team and then going off to play a Jamaican team. So that seems to be a pretty good matchup for the Galaxy as opposed to Cincinnati, who, assuming they do beat the Dominican Republic side, will most likely have to face Tigres right away. Next MLS club, LAFC, qualifying via Supporter Shield standings. Their first-round opponent is Real España out of Honduras, who qualified as Central America Cup semifinalists. And no easy out playing those Honduran clubs, but assuming they win, they'll have to take on Costa Rican powerhouse Alajuelense in the round of 16. Nashville SC is our next MLS club, winning the U.S. Open Cup, qualified them for Champions Cup. They will play against Atletico Ottawa, who won this year's Canadian Premier League, and should they win that, and I think they should, and I think they're going to want to, because in the round of 16, they will face off against this, I don't even want to call it a budding rivalry anymore. I think this is a full-blown rivalry between Nashville and Inter Miami. So that's who awaits Nashville, assuming they get by Ottawa. The Union are the next MLS team that have qualified. They did so via winning the Supporter Shield this past season. They will play Defense Force from Trinidad and Tobago in the first round. That club qualified by taking third place in the Caribbean Cup. By the way, I think it's a lot of fun that there's so many different tournaments for kind of the sub-regions within CONCACAF that are allowing players and confederations and clubs and domestic leagues to just get so much more exposure and playing time and practice and competition in. And it's only going to make CONCACAF a stronger confederation in the future. The winner of Philadelphia and Defense Force, hopefully and likely Philadelphia. Then again, they've made some moves. I think they've already moved on from Ty Baribo and Jakob Glesnes. I think they've already transferred those two guys out. I think Baribo went to DC and Glesnes, I forget where he went. Maybe Minnesota? I don't know. I'll have to check the transfer tracker. But yeah, they're starting to shuffle around their roster a little bit too. But anyway, should Philadelphia defeat Defense Force, they will play the winner of Club America or Olimpia out of Honduras. And again, America, I'm sure, is favored, one of the big clubs in North America. But Olimpia does have experience in Champions Cup, so they're no easy out by any means. San Diego FC, our next MLS club, qualified by winning the Western Conference this past season. They have a tough first-round matchup in Liga MX opponent Pumas, who qualified by the overall standings from this last year in the regular season. And then on top of that, should they defeat Pumas, they go on to face another Liga MX team in Toluca. So that is going to be a very difficult path in the sense that they're playing two teams, maybe not top teams, but two teams from the other top league here in North America. The Vancouver Whitecaps qualified by Supporter Shield standings this year, and they will face off in the first round against Costa Rican club Cartaginés, who qualified via Central American Cup play-in. Winner of that matchup plays the Seattle Sounders. So we will likely get a Cascadia Cup matchup in the round of 16. Now, Major League Soccer does have two byes. Get two teams qualifying directly into the round of 16. The first one, Inter Miami, qualifying for the first round bye as the 2025 MLS Cup winner. And again, they will face the winner of Nashville or Atletico Ottawa. And the Seattle Sounders, who won the 2025 Leagues Cup, qualify with an automatic first round bye. And again, will face the winner of the Whitecaps or Cartaginés. Hopefully, for MLS's sake, it is Vancouver. So those are the first round matchups. There is definitely, like I said, some more difficult draws and some more difficult pathways. And just looking at the bracket itself, like I said, I think San Diego has a really tough draw because they'll be facing two Liga MX teams in their first two rounds. And then Let's see, who could they possibly match up with? They could end up matching up with the LA Galaxy in the quarterfinals, so that would be very tough. Now, in the bottom left, if you will, part of the bracket, LAFC gets a tough, or has a relatively easy first round matchup, much more difficult second round matchup, and then in the quarterfinals could face either Cruz Azul or Monterrey, and then again the winner off to face San Diego or the Galaxy or Toluca or Puma. So that is a very tough group for Major League Soccer there. But there's a majority of Major League Soccer teams on the quote unquote right side of the bracket. Miami getting a difficult, even though they get the bye, they will likely have to play Nashville. And then after that, we'll have to play the winners of the other part of their region, their quadrant of the bracket, either Club America or the Philadelphia Union. So Miami doesn't seem to have any favors in this draw. And then on the bottom right part of the bracket, you've got Tigres, Cincinnati, Seattle, Vancouver. So I don't know if if you'd rather play more MLS clubs if you're an MLS club in this one, or if you'd rather play more Liga MX clubs if you're an MLS club in this variation of in this version of the tournament. But it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be exciting. It'll be great to watch. Like I said, look for that to kick off that first week of February. Now let's get into our World Cup talk, something that I have teased long enough. The draw has happened. You've seen the groups. You've done your debates on who's the group of death. But honestly, speaking of the group of death, I don't think there is a group of death anymore because of the expanded field. Because we have now gone to 48 teams, I don't think there is a group of death. Because at worst, there's going to be one bad team, one favorite, and then two guys in the middle trying to fight for that second spot. So I think because the tournament has been watered down, if you will, that there really isn't much of a group of death. But as we go through the groups, I'll kind of give you my thoughts on which ones are a little bit more difficult here. Now looking at Group A, it's Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, and then the European playoff Group D. So again, I really think this should just be Mexico and South Korea walking through this group. This is not to insult our new South African friends and followers of the Chicago Fire by any means, but they are not at the level yet of South Korea and Mexico, and the European playoff team could give South Africa some trouble. So I do think Mexico and South Korea are the favorites to move through in this group. Group B, however, we've got Canada, Qatar, and Switzerland, along with the European Playoff A. We saw Qatar really step their game up for World Cup, as well as appearing in some Gold Cups here in the United States prior to their hosting the World Cup. But this should be Canada and Switzerland walking through. Maybe Switzerland gets a little trouble from the European Playoff team, but that's how it should work. And again, the way FIFA does these draws and the way they match up, they want the host countries to go through. So that's why I'm thinking Canada and the European playoff team, if it's not Switzerland, should walk through this group. Group C, Brazil, Morocco, Haiti, and Scotland. Brazil, the clear favorite here. Morocco, probably the next favorite to go through. But again, for me, Brazil's the favorite. Haiti's the minnow, and it's whoever ends up the winner between Morocco and Scotland is going to be the second team to advance out of that group. Group D, here's the U.S.'s group. It's USA, Paraguay, Australia, and the European Playoff C, and we'll get into that particular playoff in detail in a moment. But again, this should be the U.S. and Australia walking through this group. Paraguay, obviously a difficult opponent, but one that the USA should handle. Similarly, Australia, a good opponent for the U.S., but one they should handle. And the U.S. should walk through this group, holding hands here with probably Australia, I would say. Group E, Germany, Curacao, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. And similar to Brazil's group, Germany should win this one easily. Curacao should be the minnow unless they can somehow pull off an upset of Ecuador. And then you've got Ivory Coast and Ecuador battling for the second spot in that group. Group F, we have the Netherlands, Japan, Tunisia, and another European playoff. And again, for me, this is Netherlands, who are the favorite in the group. They should win this one hands down. Japan may get some trouble from Tunisia or the European, the playoff team, but I think Japan, as an outright qualifier from the Asian Confederation, should be able to handle business and come out of this group. Group G, this is the one people are starting to call the group of death, or at least one of the groups of death. You have Belgium, who's probably your favorite, but you have real competitive teams in Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand. Like, those are three very solid, very respectable footballing nations as of late. And I really think that New Zealand is much better for tournament play than they are in one-off games. I think they will give Egypt and Iran some good competition. And if Belgium slips up, this could be a three-team race throughout the course of the group stage here. So I think looking at it just quickly, I would say Belgium and Iran should come out of this group. But again, Egypt, Iran, and New Zealand I think are a lot closer than the drawings or the rankings would suggest. Group H, we see Spain, Cabo Verde, Saudi Arabia, and Uruguay. And again, I think this should be a Spain and Uruguay group, with Cabo Verde being the odd person out, and Saudi Arabia just not up to the snuff of the traditional powerhouses in Spain and Uruguay. Group I, we have France, Senegal, Norway, and a FIFA playoff tournament spot. And as respectable of a team is Senegal, I think this is France's group to take and Norway's second spot to lose. That's going to be the matchup, though, that everyone's looking for, Mbappe and Haaland. But as we know at the international level, it's a lot more than just one or two guys. So that France-Norway game is going to decide the winner of this group and probably the second place team as well. Group J, we have Group J is kind of the A group: Argentina, Algeria, Austria, and Jordan. Again, probably Argentina walks away with the top spot in this group, leaving Austria and Algeria to kind of fight for the second spot. Though, again, don't count out Jordan. They have been kind of a feel-good team story over the last several years, and would not put it past them to top Algeria or Austria or pick up a few draws and make that final group stage game. A lot of people doing mathematics there. Group K, Portugal, Uzbekistan, Colombia, and a FIFA playoff tournament team. As much as I dislike Portugal, I do think they advance out of this group, and it's just going to be come down to the playoff winner and Colombia in this one. Or, Colombia could roll through this group, and then if Portugal gets upset in some later games, you never know how it could shake out. But I do see Portugal and Colombia coming out of this one. And the final group, Group L. Oh my gosh, it's a lot of groups to get through. England, Croatia, Ghana, and Panama. And this group here, also being called the group of death. And I think rightly so. I think this looks to be the most difficult group because you have a very good England squad. You have a very good Croatian squad. You have a Panama squad who has been through the ringer. They are probably the worst team of this group, if I can say there's a worst team. I haven't even compared their rankings yet, but they're probably the worst team in the group, but yet they have so much experience and so much play. They're used to going up against the United States, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica, teams that are on an individual basis better than them, but always competing and always surprising their opponents. And then we have Ghana, who is not at the same level as they were in World Cups past. However, always a very good tournament and World Cup team. So while I think on paper it's England and Croatia who should come out of this group, and likely in that order, England 1, Croatia 2, I still think this could be any two countries coming out of this group on their given day on the pitch. So that is how things look from the group stage. And getting back to the United States here, we see the U.S. in Group D with Paraguay, Australia, and Playoff C. Who is in Playoff C? The four countries there. Slovakia takes on Kosovo in the first playoff. Turkey takes on Romania in the second playoff in Path C here. And the winner of those two games will play each other to join Group D at the World Cup. So how do these teams stack up? The highest rated FIFA country is Turkey. They are sitting at 25th. between, or I should say, the teams around them, if you want to give it a point of comparison, the two teams above them, Ecuador and Austria, and the two teams below them, Australia and Canada. So Turkey, if they're comparable to Australia and Canada, then this could be a really favorable matchup for the United States, assuming, the U.S. continues to play well against clubs like, or countries like Canada and Australia. But that could also suggest that if Turkey is the team that gets in, if they're favored as the highest ranked FIFA country here, then that would be real tough for Australia. Then that would be Australia's main opponent, having to knock out Turkey in order to make sure they stay ahead of the playoff team and Paraguay. So Turkey's ranked 25th. Slovakia is ranked 45th. The two teams immediately ahead of them, Sweden and Czech Republic, and the two teams immediately behind them, Greece and Romania. So again, we're seeing some nice rankings pairings there, Slovakia and Romania. Romania, like I said, ranked 47th. Slovakia and Greece just ahead of them. Venezuela and Costa Rica just behind them. So that would be a good matchup for the United States, at least being on the rankings. The U.S. traditionally having success against Costa Rica, and I can't remember if the U.S. had a good friendly win over Venezuela not too long ago, or a Gold Cup Copa America win over Venezuela not too long ago. I may be remembering that incorrectly. Don't hold me to it. But it does seem like a favorable matchup for the U.S. And then Kosovo, the lowest ranked team in this playoff path C at 80th. The two teams ahead of them, Gabon and Oman, and the two teams right behind them, Guinea and Curacao. Now, Kosovo, a couple of World Cups ago, did have a really good team, but I don't think they're at that level anymore. I don't think they have that star power-driven team that they had that time. So if you're looking at who's the best matchup for the United States, I think you'd want to see Kosovo go through as the lowest ranked FIFA team. Will they be able to beat Slovakia and then Turkey or Romania? I would say no. I think Turkey ends up coming out of this group, as much as I would rather see a Romania come out of this group. I do kind of have to chuckle that we've got Slovakia, Kosovo, Turkey, and Romania, four extremely close teams geographically, and a lot of political and geographical history among these four countries here. So maybe you'll see some of those little storylines going through, depending on where you're watching and how you're watching. But what I would love to see as a U.S. fan, I think Kosovo is the easiest matchup. But the United States, again, should is the operative word. The United States should win this group regardless of which team comes out of this Path C playoff. All right, so that's where it stands. I like the USA's group. I think it is a favorable draw. Again, as one of the host countries, as kind of the primary host country, they should have the most favorable draw and the most favorable knockout round path to try and get them to the finals. And I've seen projections where the USA could face Belgium in the round of 16 and then off to Spain in the next round, and then end up playing Argentina in the finals. Like, once you get to that round of 16, you're playing with the bigwigs. So whether it's Spain, Belgium, Argentina, Portugal, whoever it is, or whether you end up jumping to the other side and maybe meeting Brazil or Mexico, Canada, South Korea, like all these countries, or even the Netherlands again. I don't think that's as likely of a path for the U.S., but still, it's going to be difficult for any country to get through and get from the round of 16 onwards. And that's part of my gripe with the expanded format. Like, yeah, it's so nice that all these teams are qualifying for their first ever World Cup, but really, we've got Cabo Verde qualifying for their ever first World Cup. What does it do for a country to qualify for their World Cup and then go get smacked down by Spain like 6-0 and 3-0 by Uruguay and 5-1 by Saudi Arabia, maybe? I don't know. Like, what does that do for that country? Yeah, they're getting money. Yeah, they're getting kind of that experience of being there, and they can take that back. But they have no business playing a country like a Spain or an Uruguay, or even a Saudi Arabia. And I'm just using Cabo Verde as one of several examples here. I'm not trying to pick on them exactly. Will there be any upsets? I don't know. Maybe one. Maybe Curacao can beat Ecuador or Ivory Coast. But I think at this point, countries, like a Haiti, are going to just be looking to score their first goal and just be happy that they're there. And that's, I don't think, good for the competition, for the tournament as a whole. There's so many other ways if you want to improve the global reach of soccer, improve the quality of these countries, improve their players, give them better playing conditions than there are by just expanding the World Cup and maybe just throwing some more money at it. Because if money's not being well spent, then it doesn't matter how much you have. And we started to see that with the development of the Nations Leagues, playing with some of the other restrictions on scheduling international friendlies. That way, some of these quote unquote smaller or minnow countries will get some better competition, try to grow, get some additional funding, like have better pitches, have VAR, right? How many tournaments in CONCACAF haven't had VAR available because some of the countries don't have the funds or the staff or the referee experience to actually implement it. So that is there are many other ways for FIFA to grow the game and improve these countries than just expanding the World Cup. In addition, now because of the expanded World Cup, they're just outrageous ticket prices, and this was something that I wanted to quickly mention. First of all, as a Major League Soccer season ticket holder, season ticket holder for the Chicago Fire, we as MLS season ticket holders were supposed to get some sort of avenue to purchase tickets for the World Cup. That was outside of the regular go sign up for FIFA, give them all your info, become a FIFA ID holder, and then get in a lottery or whatever. We were supposed to have a separate path to buy World Cup tickets, or at least get into a lottery for World Cup tickets. That was outside of all the stuff you're hearing now. That completely fell through. And I asked my season ticket rep about it. I said, this was part of the reason that I bought into season tickets, is that I would have a little bit of an inside track on the World Cup. And she said, the only thing I can say is that FIFA is not easy to work with. So that is something that was just heartbreaking to hear. And maybe heartbreaking is too strong of a word, but it's like, we're hosting it. The United States and Major League Soccer is hosting this World Cup. Yes, alongside Mexico and Canada, but the vast majority of the games, including the opener and the final, are going to be played in the United States. And people are coming to the U.S. for these games. And for MLS season ticket holders to not be able to get into that ticket buying process was I think poor planning and poor coordination on FIFA's part. The other thing is this dynamic pricing. Like, it's a money grab. Like, I don't even think FIFA's denying that it's a money grab. They keep saying that, oh, this is the most available ticket prices ever, whatever. No, it's a money grab. They even set up their own secondary resale site that takes a 15% cut of every sale and purchase. So they're making 30% of every sale, first of all. And their response to people complaining about how high the ticket prices are is that, oh, there's 5 million requests for tickets. Yeah, how many of those are bots? How many of those are people not even going to go to the game, that are just going to resell them to try and make more money off of it? And you know what? FIFA's okay with that, because they want higher ticket prices, because again, they're getting 30% of every resale that is out there, because the only way you can officially resell your ticket is to do it on their own resale website. So, I mean, it's absolute crap. And I totally understand the idea of supply and demand. I totally understand the idea that FIFA's doing all this stuff and they want money, but everything FIFA's doing it seems less and less about money and about being just controlling everything. And they're going to get to a point where they're outpricing. You saw it already in the United States with the Club World Cup, with less than full stadiums, with people having price fatigue. And fee fatigue, especially for a lot of this stuff. So I think they're banking on the fact that international fans are going to come snatch up these tickets. I really hope, for fans' sake, that this dynamic pricing, that prices are going to drop shortly before the World Cup, because obviously interest is at its highest when it's announced, and the day before the game or the day of the game, hopefully we hit that lull and ticket prices can go down so people can get to them at some affordable prices. But again, let's not fool ourselves. It's a money grab, and the only ones who benefit are FIFA, and the ones who suffer the most are the fans. And unfortunately, and again, while I don't want to stand here and say that everything should be for the fans, everything should be free, blah blah. I'm not going to promote that, or everything should be a $20 ticket, this and that. No, I get you got to make money. There's bills to pay, but at the same time, it has swung so far in that direction, so far that it's clearly just a cash grab. And I'm really upset because I really wanted to take my kids and my wife and go to a World Cup game. I went to Greece versus Bulgaria at Soldier Field in Chicago back in 1994. It is one of my core memories. I was there with my godfather and my two godbrothers, one of whom had grease shaved into the side of his head. And we were there cheering. We were going nuts. We saw Greece get lit up 4-0 because they were out partying all night at Greektown the night before. They could have cared less about the game. But I was there to experience the World Cup, the greatest athletic event in the world, the greatest sporting event in the world. We'll argue about the Summer Olympics or not, but just an incredible, incredible event, incredible spectacle, incredible talent on the pitch at all times. Got to see Hristo Stoichkov in that game, and oh my goodness, the fact that if I wanted to take my family to a World Cup match, not only would I have to jump through every single FIFA hoop there is, I'm looking at a $5,000 to $7,000 ticket package, and that's it. That's not including travel because Chicago didn't want to host it, and I think the closest city for us is Kansas City, maybe Atlanta or Boston. I don't know, probably Boston, if not Kansas City, to go to a game. Hopefully, I can get tickets for that that venue, and then add in the plane tickets, add in the hotel, add in everything else. To take my family to a World Cup game would cost me over 10 grand. So there's no way I'm doing that. I'd rather just go to Greece for a month. 10 grand if that was the case. All right, the last thing I want to go over in this episode continues on with our World Cup theme here. ESPN back on December 12th, so not too long ago, just yesterday morning, Ryan O'Hanlon put out an article ranking the U.S. men's national team players based on their club form. So this is the Player Performance Index, the PPI, and it ranks our top 50 players. So I want to go through quickly the top 10 and point out a few other players on this list, but make sure that this is that we understand the rankings here and how it works. The rankings use a combination of talent, playing time, and team quality. Talent is measured based on transfer market's value for every player. Playing time is measured by percentage of available minutes each player has played in their domestic league. And for team quality, they use Opta's power rankings, which have rated every pro club in the world. Now, they do admit that these rankings aren't perfect for either one of those three qualities. So you can generally say that if you as a player are playing a lot of minutes on a high-rated team, you're likely contributing valuable performance to your team and will likely be ranked higher than everybody else. And so as a result of this, you see a guy like Josh Sargent, who's not on the top 50, Alex Freeman, not in the top 50, Diego Luna, not on the top 50, because he's playing with Real Salt Lake, who is not a highly ranked club under Opta. So who are the top 10 in the U.S. Player Performance Index according to ESPN? Number one, and it is a new number one, it is Chris Richards, Crystal Palace center back. So here again, looking at the metrics, Crystal Palace is the best team any American is currently playing for, and Chris Richards is playing every minute of every game. Therefore, his ranking is higher. This isn't saying that Chris Richards is a better player than every other player in the USMNT pool, but according to their metrics, he has the highest data set. He has the highest score, if you will. So Chris Richards is the number one ranked player in the USMNT pool under ESPN's Player Performance Index. Number two, Malik Tillman, attacking midfielder, Bayer Leverkusen. Number three, Christian Pulisic, right winger, AC Milan. Number four, Tyler Adams, D-mid for Bournemouth. Number five, Serginho Dest, right back, PSV. So this is interesting that Dest, despite all his recent injuries and things, is as high as number five. And the conversation around him says that he's first in progressive passes and second in progressive carries for a team that's beaten defending English and Italian champs by a combined 10-3. And given Anthony Robinson's injury problems, which, by the way, Robinson was back playing for Fulham today for the first time after missing a significant time with a knee injury and knee surgery, and with Weston McKennie's inconsistent call-ups, it seems as if there's now a core four of close to irreplaceable players for the USMNT: Richards, Pulisic, Adams, and Dest. So those are their core four here. Looking at the bottom half of the top 10, Johnny Cardoso, central mid for Atletico Madrid, ranked number 6 in the PPI. We've got Weston McKennie coming in at central midfielder for Juventus. He probably would be ranked a little higher, but did not play a lot at the start of the season and now has been playing a lot more. And also Juventus is 7th in Serie A. But if you look at the chart that is put out on this article, with all of McKennie's touches for the 2025 and 2026 season so far, he is doing everything all over the field. Like he is anything and everything all at once. He is his passes are all over the field. You know, I'm not saying he's missing his passes, but where he is making passes, he's all over the field. Where he's playing defense and intercepting passes, all over the field. Where he is taking on players, where he's tackling, he has played he's covered almost every inch of ground on the pitch this season. So he's been doing everything. He seems to be in good form and probably should be ranked higher as far as the pure talent. But again, we're looking at the PPI index. Number 8, Tim Weah, a winger for Olympique Marseille. Number 9, Ricardo Pepe, forward for PSV. And our number 10, Tanner Tessman, D-mid from Olympique Lyonnais. Lyonnais? Yeah, sure. Olympique Lyon over in the French league. Now, here's where they qualify Tanner Tessman. Yeah, he's top 10 on the PPI scale, but the author says, I don't think Tessman is a future star or anything. He's already 24, but he's a solid starting midfielder for a fringe Champions League team in France. And compared to his peers in League One, he is ranking anywhere between the 59th and 81st percentile. So there's only 2 metrics where he is below average. He's a below average crosser and a below average carry defender compared to all other defensive midfielders in League One in France. But he is most exceptional. He is the most above average in his clearing, in his challenges, but also above average in passing, shooting, and ball carrying. So he is exceeding the average of midfielders, of D-mids in the French League One, which, again, translate that to the rest of the USMNT player pool, translate that to the rest of the world, could be a very valuable player for the U.S., though, as the author points out, no future star or anything. Now, just running through the next ones, Yunus Musa comes in at 11, Florin Balogun at 12, and then we have Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, Haji Wright, Joe Scally, and number 17, Christian Roldan. And here's a cool comment for all you Roldan haters out there, where our author says, I like how such a simple rating system can discover the same thing Pochettino has found out the past couple months. Roldan is very good at soccer. And so, moving down from 18 through 25, Mark Delgado, Sebastian Berhalter, Timothy Tillman, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Jesus Ferreira, Justin Hack, Ryan Hollingshead, and Tristan Blackman. So those are your top 25. It's an interesting list. We're already going on about 50 minutes here on the podcast, so I will just kind of jump to the bottom, just kind of let you know the bottom 5 of the top 50 here is Miles Robinson, Aziel Jackson, who is the attacking midfielder from Jagiellonia Białystok, I think formerly of Columbus Crew, Leonard Maloney, James Sands, and Gio Reyna comes in at number 50, attacking midfielder for Borussia Mönchengladbach. So there you go. Those are your top-rated players according to ESPN's Player Performance Index, and hopefully those are the players that will be leading the U.S. to World Cup glory. With that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening, for writing, for following, liking, subscribing, all that great stuff. Please share the show. We're going to continue to talk MLS transfers. We're going to continue to talk Chicago Fire news. And as the World Cup gets ever closer, we will continue to dedicate some more time to talking things World Cup and World Soccer. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, let's go Fire.